The hard work of separating coal from slate and other scrap rocks in the collieries, or breaker houses as they were commonly called, was left to young boys, some of whom were as young as 6 or 7. These lads were called breaker boys, and their lives were difficult to say the least. Day in and day out, they walked to the breaker houses and took their places on rows of 5-inch wide boards that were their work seats. Chutes of fast-moving coal moved underneath their feet. Groups of 30 or 40 boys worked at a time, all the while under the watchful eye of the breaker boss, who would rap their shoulders or back with a thick stick if they slowed down or talked. John Spargo, a labor reformer of the early 1900s, visited a breaker house in Luzerne County and wrote a book about his experiences in 1906 called The Bitter Cry of the Children. Here is an excerpt from the book.
Work in the coal breakers is exceedingly hard and dangerous. Crouched over the chutes, the boys sit hour after hour, picking out the pieces of slate and other refuse from the coal as it rushes past to the washers. From the cramped position they have to assume, most of them become more or less deformed and bent-backed like old men. The coal is hard, and accidents to the hands, such as cut, broken, or crushed fingers, are common among the boys. Sometimes there is a worse accident. A terrified shriek is heard, and a boy is mangled and torn in the machinery, or disappears in the chute to be picked out later smothered and dead. Clouds of dust fill the breakers and are inhaled by the boys, laying the foundations for asthma and miners' consumption. I once stood in a breaker for a half an hour and tried to do the work a 12-year-old boy was doing day after day for 10 hours at a stretch for pennies a day. The gloom of the breaker appalled me. There was blackness. Clouds of deadly dust enfolded everything, the harsh grinding roar of the machinery and the ceaseless rushing of coal through the chutes. I tried to pick out the pieces of slate from the hurrying stream of coal, often missing them. My hands were bruised and cut. In a few minutes I was covered from head to foot with coal dust, and for many hours afterwards I was expectorating some of the small particles of anthracite I had swallowed. I could not do that work and live, but there were boys of 10 and 12 years of age doing it. Some of them had never been inside of a school. Few of them could read a child's primer. True, some of them attended the night schools, but after working 10 hours in the breaker, the educational results from attending school were practically nil. "We goes for a good time, and we keeps de guys what's dere hoppin' all de time," said little Owen Jones, whose work I had been trying to do. From the breakers, the boys graduate to the mine depths, where they become door tenders, switch boys, or mule drivers. Here, far below the surface, work is still more dangerous. At 14 or 15, the boys assume the same risks as the men, and are surrounded by the same perils. Think of what it means to be a trap boy at 10 years of age. It means to sit alone in a dark mine passage, hour after hour, with no human soul near, to see no living creature except the mules as they pass with their loads, or a rat or two seeking to share one's meal, to stand in water or mud that covers the ankles, chilled to the marrow by the cold drafts that rush in when you open the trap door for the mules to pass through, to work for 14 hours, waiting, opening and shutting a door, then waiting again for their few cents. To reach the surface when all is wrapped in the mantle of night, and to fall to the earth exhausted, and have to be carried away to the nearest shack to be revived before it is possible to walk to the farther shack called home.